Welcome to the Rec Room with Mandy and Mio, a podcast about books and the people who write
them. 'Twas the night before Christmas, when all through the house not a creature was stirring, not even a mouse.
Okay.
Life was a willow, and it bent right to your wind. Head on the pillow, I could feel you sneaking in, as if you were a mythical thing, like you were a trophy or a champion ring, and there was one prize I'd cheat to win. The more that you say, the less I know. Wherever you stray, I follow. I'm begging for you to take my hand, wreck my plans, that's my man. You know that my train could take you home. Anywhere else is hollow. I'm begging for you to take my hand, wreck my plans, that's my man. Hello, everybody.
No!
Welcome to our year-ender episode. I decided to open us off with a traditional Christmas.
You said it would be traditional!
Yes, it is. No, because like if you look at the charts right now, the top 10 like US Billboard charts are dominated by Christmas tracks, including the poem that I just read to you now, Willow by Taylor Swift, right straight off of her Christmas album Evermore. So
that's right. Her Christmas
was
album.
it not released coming up to Christmas? Know. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Was it? Did she say it was a Christmas album?
Well, she wouldn't have released it in December.
Wow.
If it wasn't a Christmas album.
This is the same. This is the same. Like, what do you call this? Like argument for people who are like, Die Hard is a Christmas movie. Yeah. Like they were like they came out in December.
Yeah,
it did, right?
Well, yeah,
it came out in December, and also it had Christmas stuff. There was a Christmas party involved, so I guess that one is. Well, yeah.
Arguably, I think that. I was also going to say,
right. Like, Die Hard is,
or like people.
Hot take: Die Hard is more Christmas than Evermore.
No, or like I was going to say also that people who feel like, oh yeah, you know how okay, no, this is like a real stretch. I'm gonna try to connect it anyway. But like, you know how people say like Christmas is actually not when Jesus was born, but it's actually like linked to the winter solstice, and that's when the witches. Sure. So really, it's a pagan festival. And you know where witches used to live? That's right, the woods. You know how UK. I know? Blair Witch Project. That's where they live, in the woods. You know who else lives in the woods? Taylor Swift. When she was writing her album Evermore. Therefore, it's a Christmas album. Okay, I made the connection.
That was crazy. That was so good. That was almost as good as all of our cinephile stuff.
Yeah,
Anyway, I thought you were also gonna end that by being like, you know who else is a witch? Taylor Swift.
Hey man, I'm not here to judge. I'm not here to judge.
I'm not either.
Jesus
if she was, that would be great. Yeah, it's true. All right.
Merry Christmas, everyone. Okay, well, as I said, we are here now at our year-ender episode. It's been a long year here at the Rec Room. We started in October. It's now December. We've been running for 2 months.
It's been long. To be fair, it did feel like a lot has passed or like happened.
Yeah, I don't think you saw it, but like like funnily enough, when I logged into like our Anchor page just to see how our stats were doing, there was like a link to Spotify Wrapped for podcasters. And then I was like, really? Okay, I'm curious to see what it says for us, even though we just started. And I opened it, there was like only one page, and it said, you released 5 episodes this year.
That's so good.
And I was like, oh, great. Yeah, I did not know that. I was not keeping count. So
I was not aware.
Very long year for us so far. But, hey, 2020, we made it. And, you know, I don't need to be stating the obvious here, but oh, whoa, what a year.
Oh, yeah. Oh, buddy.
So
if we could describe this year, we wouldn't.
Yeah, we wouldn't, because you already know, presumably, you've just lived through it too. Unless you're listening to this from the future.
In 2025.
Or like in 2030.
I was about to mention something that we haven't released yet, so never.
Yeah, but 2020 was a big year in terms of suckiness, and now we're coming out through the tail end of it. And look, I know probably everyone is going to do this sort of thing on their media and culture websites, on their radio shows, or even on their podcasts, which is fine. Yeah. We're going to bring you the Rec Room Year-Ender episode, which is just us, like, kind of checking in on each other and seeing how we did this year. As you guys know, Mandy and I are huge friends. I was about to say, I was like, well, like, what's another way I could say best friends? Huge best friends. I'm like, no, maybe I'll just say huge friends. A bit needless words. It's like, no, huge friends.
Well, we are huge friends because we're both chunk.
Yeah, that's true. But because we're best friends, we're always like in touch with each other. It also sounded
like you're saying we're huge in the friendship. We're just so big on friendship. In terms of like our fandom of each other, I think we're pretty huge. That's true. That's actually very true.
So okay,
yeah.
So there's that. But yeah, even though we keep in touch with each other all the time, like it really helps, I guess, for us to check in on each other occasionally. And like, you know, like that happened in an episode recently where
that's true.
Like, I was like spontaneously like, hey, how are you doing? Like I almost felt like, do I not ask you this question often? Maybe I should ask
No,
more.
you do.
Yeah, but like
we talk literally every day.
Right, but I feel like at least
always on mic.
In terms of like the end of the year, that's good to ask. Because
very true.
You know, then it just sort of helps us to grow with each other, and isn't that the real Christmas?
Maybe the real friendship
was the Christmas.
Is the Christmas you grow
and
together
maybe
all along.
The real Chrys-Efans was all the masses you attended.
Wow, because.
Sorry, okay. So
that was a crazy inside joke.
Yeah, anyway. Okay, so
I'll never explain that to anybody.
So the way we figured out how to check in on each other on this year-ender episode is, so we've set up 2 parts to this episode. The first part is a question and answer portion, like a survey portion. And then the second part is just a list of all our favorite things that we experienced or encountered this past year. The questions that we got, so we were looking at first like on a variety of places. We were looking at like really deep reflective questions, and we kind of felt turned off by that because like while we know, you know, it is good to be reflective, we didn't want to be too heady. We wanted to keep things light, and so we were trying to look for questions that would still feel substantive without like going too deep into what are the words you wish you could regret from next year. Like, you know, we don't want to say it. Yeah, that exactly.
What's the question?
I want to ask that kind of question.
What are the words you wish you could regret?
Yeah, exactly.
From next year.
Yeah, I didn't want to ask you that question. Like
stimulus check. That's the words I regret.
Right. But instead I wanted to ask you questions that were, you know, just like straightforward but could lead to like something longer in a discussion. And so what I did was I went on Twitter and then I just plugged in end of year questionnaire, and we found like this 5-question questionnaire, very simple questions, and probably not designed with a end of year podcast episode in mind.
And probably not designed for our age either.
For reasons that you will discover as I'm asking these questions. But they are, I think, good questions to ask nonetheless. And I'll explain even as we're going on. So with that, should we go into the questions?
Yeah.
You ready?
Yeah.
All right. So I'm going to start by asking you first, Amanda. Question number 1. What was the easiest thing you learned this year?
You know what? Okay, so like you mentioned earlier, we tried to record this episode a couple of days ago and it didn't really pan out well. And I had an answer for this one, but I think I'm going to change my answer. But I'm going to say that in some ways, the easiest thing to learn this year was like to get back into like the reading game because of the podcast.
Okay.
Like I actually thought that it was going to be kind of difficult because my attention span is so bad. But, you know, as we've been doing this and as we've been reading these like books together, I think that's also what's helped, is that knowing that you're also we're basically on the same page, so to speak. Yeah, that's really helped me a lot. And I think like looking back also on like college days, I think, and we always mention that like one of the reasons why we started this podcast is because like we wanted to like kind of relive that experience of getting to read stuff with people. And I realize now that a lot of my easygoing, or like a lot of the ways I was able to really read through stuff in college was knowing that my blockmates, or even with you, were we were all just reading the same stuff. And so that was something that was surprisingly easy to relearn how to do this year.
I think that's something that like I can relate to a lot, especially in terms of like, because like when we were in college together, like I was always reading all the time. And even though we had like, as we were saying, common readings with all our classmates and stuff, I would always like read extra, and it would be hard for me to relate what I was experiencing or what I was reading with others, because I felt like, oh, but I want you guys to read the book first. Which is why it was always like a challenge to talk about things that I was reading. And I forget if we've brought this up already on the podcast, like maybe even in the first episode. But like one of the reasons that we became friends very quickly is that you went ahead and you started you borrowed books from me, but then you also started, I mean, like you read the books and then you let me know away once you'd finished them. So I was like, oh, okay, now I can finally now I know what this feeling feels like.
Yeah, exactly. We were doing the podcast before we even knew this was a podcast.
But that also just speaks to
what book was that again?
Well, no, the first book that...
Do you remember that first one?
Yeah, the first book that you ever borrowed from me was Super Sad True Love Story by Gary Steingart.
Yes, that's what it's called.
And then eventually we read Donna Tartt essentially together.
Mm-hmm.
We were like,
together, yeah. That was a good time.
That's what I remember of it. That was mostly... Those were like the biggest ones that I remember. But like, it wasn't hard for us to like kind of just like connect through those things.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah,
and just to date it for people, like when I had borrowed that first book from you, I was a freshman. That was literally my first semester of college. Exactly, so you would have been, that would have been like your first semester of your third year.
Yeah.
Semester? Am I okay? The first semester of your third year.
Right. So I was already starting on my majors. Like I was starting to do intro to literary genres and historical research.
And I literally was just
you were starting Iliad.
That's actually true. No, I had it in second sem, but like
right.
But like I was still just getting into the liberal arts thing, and I was like, hey, this cool guy is reading a cool book with a cool cover, and then I remember not liking it, but then like and then I was like, okay, that was a good experience to have. Anyway, so that's for me. What about you? What was the easiest thing?
My easiest thing to learn this year, also like related to this podcast. So a bit of context, like the thing I've always felt is like my biggest weakness is arranging or organizing things. Like I always feel like I'm sometimes too like I'm doing a job interview. Like I sometimes feel like I'm too compromising. But this is
What's
actually
your biggest weakness?
Which by the way, this is the answer that I give.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. It's true.
So anyone who wants to hire us, just listen to this
like
podcast.
if you're looking for a content manager or something. No, okay. But like I always feel like sometimes one of my biggest weaknesses is like organizing things with other people. Like I don't feel like I'm very good at group projects unless somebody else is the leader, and like designating tasks and doing schedules. So for me, I've always like felt unsure about that because I always just wanted people to kind of go at their own pace, not realizing that part of like leadership is just like putting your foot down and being like, okay, we can't compromise anymore, you got to do this, you got to do that, right? And then like everyone sort of just has to carry the weight, or at least like try to find a convincing way to get people to do what they're supposed to do. But anyway, what all that context was to set up is that the easiest thing that I learned this year was setting up a podcast, really.
Yeah.
And
that's crazy.
Yeah, because like I think it did not take as long as I thought it would for me to go from, hey, do you want to start a podcast with me, to okay, let's figure out, like, let's do alignment meetings. Like there was a point where, like, I remember we would just say, like, let's set a time for a meeting, and we talk for about an hour, and then we'd fix the schedule, and then you'd make suggestions about doing content calendars, and I'd be like, yes, that sounds great, and let's do that. And like that, I realized was like a thing that I hadn't really done before, which I think is, obviously a great marker of growth.
Indeed.
Part of the thing is that I think a lot about like how, so in like my first job, when I worked as an editor, I did a lot of so like a big part of that job was like having to organize like features and shoots, which I never really did, partly because I was just too intimidated to do it, which is not a thing you should be in, I guess, the media business. But like it sort of always stuck to me that, hey, I never really, I mean, like I organized 1 or 2 shoots, but I was never really like there throughout the process. Whereas like I think you've been on the other side of that. I mean, you've been on the side of that where you've been working with people organizing shoots, and like so you technically have more experience than me in that regard, which is sort of funny.
It's literally my job.
Yeah, exactly. And now
my day job,
you're still doing it now. So like that for me, I think was, compared to the other things that I felt like I had to learn this year, actually the easiest thing that I had to learn, because I'd somehow picked up the mindset for it from years and years of watching other people do it but never really doing it myself. So technically it felt like it should be easier. And hey, we're like, how many episodes in? We're like 6, 7 episodes in.
I know, 6. What did Anchor say? 6?
No.
This should be 7 by now.
We're 7 episodes in, and I feel like we're holding our own.
Yeah, pretty
keeping
good.
a schedule,
Pretty
and then like
good.
figuring out like time and just like
and
out,
even if when those times that we needed to like take our breaks and stuff, we always kind of adjusted pretty well.
And like moving things around.
Reading
the schedule.
a book in 2 weeks is very hard, guys. I mean, like, I know that I said that it's an easy thing, that it's the easiest thing I like relearned, but in terms of like just being kind of realistic about it, it was also pretty tough knowing that kind of schedule. But again, going into the cycle of it is what became quite easy. Yeah,
and I would really say that part of the biggest part of the challenge that comes with that, of that having to read within 2-week cycles, is that like it kind of doesn't give us as much room to sometimes enjoy the books the way we want to.
Yes, like, I agree. And the interesting... Sorry,
go. Like
the interesting about that I found with it is that there were specific episodes that we've done recently where I say that as if we did so many, but like
it's been a long year, Amanda.
It's been a long 2 months. No, but there were like 2, I think, episodes where I really was like, okay, I feel like I know what I'm gonna say with this book. Like, I'm just gonna flat out say I don't like it. Yeah. And then I end up like turning it around because of the whole discussion. Yeah. And so I feel like the discussion, like leading into the discussion, is what helps appreciate the book despite the 2 weeks
books were
rush.
Those for you?
Conversations.
Okay.
Conversations and actually, okay, I still didn't like it, but Autograph Man, like Autograph Man, I really thought I didn't have much to say because of how much I was like, I didn't really like this. Yeah. But then in the end, we ended up still having like a pretty solid, So even like I think Conversations didn't, because that was like our second episode. Our first episode ever. Yeah. It was our first episode ever. And I knew less about that than normal people. And I really remember being like, is it really bad that in the first episode I'm going to be like, I didn't really like this. But then, as the conversation went along, I was like, no, okay, I get it now. And I appreciate it more, etc. So it was, again, like class. Because sometimes that does also happen in class.
Yeah. Which, I think that also speaks to, like, the ones that I wish I spent more time on were the books that I loved, especially. So like my
like White Teeth.
White Teeth is like my number one example, because that book was very long.
That was very long.
And like there was so much happening, but we really had to speed read through it so hard that we resorted to audiobooks to really get
it's
us
very
through
true.
and focus.
Wait, okay, here's my question for you.
Oh, okay.
What speed were you listening to?
Oh no, I was listening to it at like
normal
speed. Did you listen?
Oh
no,
I listened to it on like 1.5.
Yeah, that's fine.
Because I really was like, yeah.
No,
I can't
you know
do
what it
this
is,
right now.
because like, okay, the reason, the way I was using the audiobook was I wanted like a sustained way of getting the words into my head,
Yeah,
as opposed
I
to what I
understand
do
this
when I
a
try
lot.
to speed read, which is that
Yeah,
I really look
that's
for
more
the
difficult.
keywords per line, which is like a horrible thing to admit.
Yeah, don't. Yeah.
Especially like when
And also, that's not how
considering the
speed reading
prose
works,
that
I
we're
think.
reading. Yeah, but like no, but like at least there, like I find that if I'm speed reading that way, there have been, especially in this podcast, in the making of this podcast, occasions where I've had to reread a few paragraphs because I didn't quite catch
Yeah,
something that went on.
agree.
Whereas like the audiobook really helped in like getting every line and every word through my head. Which you know, I mean, it sounds very elementary, but you know, that's how that helped.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I wish I
Yeah.
spent more time on it.
Yeah, agree.
Okay.
But alas, poor Yorick.
We need thee well. Second question. So, I've asked you about the easiest thing you've ever learned this year. What is the toughest thing you learned this year?
You know what I'm also realizing with these questions
Okay.
is that are we supposed to also have like a life lesson answer to these?
I don't know.
Because I realize that both my answers for these are not life lesson things. They're literally
that's
just
fine.
like,
Yeah.
oh, okay.
I think that's perfectly fine because it's not like I kind of push back against the idea that year-end questionnaires or year-end reflections are supposed to make you think about your whole life in
Yeah, right.
as
In
much as-
retrospect?
yeah, like you don't have, you can think about it that way, but that's not the only way to think about it.
Right. Okay. In that case, I'm gonna keep my answer from last time.
Okay.
So the toughest thing I learned this year was, okay. So for the people who do not know, I also sort of play music, and I learned how to play some songs on alternate tunings on the guitar. So also for people who don't really know how to play guitar or whatever, you have a standard tuning for your guitars, and there are some songs, especially in acoustic songs that are played on acoustic guitar, where the tuning is different, and so it the way that you play songs is sometimes harder, but sometimes it can also make things easier. So this year I learned how to play on two other tunings, which are both like D related, or like, I don't know if it means they're in the key of D or whatever, but I learned how to play on dad, which means the strings are in those notes. And the other one is an open string, or like an open tuning for D major 7. And that was really crazy because I have been playing guitar a really long time, but I've never really dabbled into other tunings. Like the most I'd ever did was drop D, which is literally you changing the 6th string to D, and that's literally it. Which doesn't really change much in terms of like chord shapes or like how you do chords with your hands.
But you know how like in high school, like everyone was like that. Oh, that guy must be a guitar master. That they can
yeah, like
go
if you could do drop D in high school, holy shit!
it's like we got a badass here.
we get it. You can play some Led Zeppelin songs. But yeah, so I learned how to do that, and I learned that mostly through Laura Marling's IGTV tutorial. So shout out to Laura Marling, who I will make another shout out to later when we do our favorites. But yeah, so like, yeah, for anyone, okay, that's also like a top tip for anyone who wants to like kind of learn how to play some songs on alternate tunings. I kind of really recommend Laura's tutorials. She's not this is not like a slight against her, but like she's not really like a guitar teacher because she never took formal lessons, but the way that she explains things is also really clear. And if you know her songs well, or if you know her songs like pretty roughly, you can follow her instructions pretty well. So yeah, so that was what I learned this year. That was pretty tough, but now I practice it every day, so I'm getting pretty good at it, I'd like to think.
Yeah. I understand though why you put it up as being the tougher thing, because like I know how incredibly important your music practice is to you. And like especially I think in the context of the past year, like Like, so, like,
Yeah.
like, okay, additional context. So, like, you had started a band with your friends.
I did.
Earlier.
Yeah, I started a band last year.
Last year, right.
With my friends. Mostly from college, from the latter years of college.
Okay.
They didn't go to college with us,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
they're
yeah.
from the music scene, and the music scene. They're from like the local gig scene, and I had been kind of a part of the scene for a long time, but I'd never been in it as. I was always in it as a spectator and as a producer. I had produced some gigs in my time, but I'd never been really been a performer. And it wasn't until last year that I kind of like you saying that you didn't really have it in you to like push through with stuff that you planned.
Yeah.
Unless, but you did this time because you had taken cues from like people you've watched over the past years.
Yeah.
That's kind of how it was for me too with starting the band. Like, I had been like, okay, I get how people do it. I'm not super get, but like I can see how they did it, and there are certain people that I trust to ask to be part of this with me. So that's what happened, and we had started like in August, like mid-year last year, like August-ish.
Yeah.
And funnily enough, that's how I met my now boyfriend, because he's the guitarist for a little band.
Shout out to Spoonie.
Yeah.
Do you want to name him?
Oh my god, are we doing that?
I don't know.
So
Sorry.
he's gonna be Spoonie.
I might cut this out, but
Yeah,
if you feel like this is too
Okay.
offended.
We should shout out to let's think of a better nickname. Actually, I don't know if he wants to be named on the bot. Let's just say shout out to my mans. Okay,
Yeah.
keep that one in.
I'll
Shout out to
call
my
him
mans.
Spoonie. It's the opposite
Yeah,
of
just call him
Forky.
Spoonie. That's Forky. Yeah, okay. I like how you had to explain it. I didn't think to explain it, but yeah. So Spoonie is the opposite of Forky. Hashtag if you know, you know. Anyway, so and we had done some gigs over the past couple of months, but 2020 was supposed to be the year that I was really like, okay, guys, we're gonna record something that's just ours. We're gonna write stuff. We're gonna release it. Like, I wanted my birthday this year to be the release party or something like that. Like, that's what I was thinking of doing. And then that didn't happen because obviously the world went into flames, literally and figuratively. Did you realize, figuratively, I mean, did you realize that the forest fires in Australia was this year?
Yeah, and
then also
rest of
California.
global warming.
Yeah, and the rest of global warming, and then our volcano also almost erupted.
That was wild. It's so weird to think that. It's so funny. Sometimes I think about. I really think about this a lot now. But like sometimes I think a lot about, people who I know, who like, I mean, obviously this was such a huge tragedy. But like when Kobe died. And then I remember hearing people say,
"Oh my god, that was this."
Like
year.
I remember hearing people say, "This is the worst thing that could possibly happen in 2020."
That's true.
And that was
That's
like,
really true.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, to be
I'm
fair,
not gonna touch
Kobe.
anymore.
Kobe passed like 3 weeks.
Yeah, literally.
Before.
Literally
Yeah,
right
it was
before.
insane. And I remember. Okay, Kobe passed 3 weeks ish before COVID really started to hit the world.
Yeah.
And then. But then, like 2-ish weeks before that was when our volcano was starting shit here.
Yeah.
So, and then, I think a week before, there was also that weird earthquake that was also here. I just remember that whole period being super, like we say in Tagalog, like sunod-sunod, like everything just kept happening one after another, and it was so crazy.
Right.
Anyway, so
to take it back
like
to your music.
everyone's dreams like kind of got like shot on this year. I was also thinking about that like the other day na parang okay, in terms of like maybe that's I'll pull it back into my question earlier about like having to have like a life lesson, but I guess relating to this also is that a lot of us had to really push back on the things that they wanted to do this year, and a lot of them were like life goals, like you know, a lot of people had to change the way that they got married, or even if they probably didn't get married at all, or like I have friends who are like that, or I have friends who, including myself, who wanted to move out of the country this year for other stuff, but then that never happened. That obviously couldn't happen. And I had other people who were like gonna move jobs but then ended up losing their jobs. So, it was that kind of, it's that whole thing that parang it really puts you into retrospect. Like, one, what are the things that are you supposed to like fucking prepare for now?
Yeah.
And two, like, you have to live with like really knowing how much you couldn't do.
Right.
In a lot of ways, not just in terms of, personally, but also like, with like how shitty the world is, but then also like I feel like a lot of people always talk about how we have to discuss how personally affected we all are, not just in terms of COVID, like getting COVID, but like in terms of like life, like everyone's life except for rich people was really put on hold, and that is one of the biggest tragedies of this year, I think.
Right. And I think the part of the reason that I litigated sort of the context of it in your music practice is that, like, as you were saying, you had plans for this year with your band, and once those were all thrown out the window, it became this question now of like, well, do I just not play music anymore for the rest of the year, like, that's do I do something with it? And I think the capacity to be able to find it in yourself to say, all right, well, I'll try to learn something new with what I can do with my craft. Yeah. Even if it's not like the biggest thing ever, but like it's just something like learning how to play different tunings or how to access different tunings and figuring out or rewiring in my brain so that I know how to do different chord patterns on those arrangements. Like that in itself is a very big thing, I think.
Oh, thanks, buddy. Yeah. That means a lot.
Gotcha.
Illy.
So,
okay, so what about you?
For me, the toughest thing that I learned this year is I think I learned... So this is the thing that I think I learn almost every year. At least almost every year since I've graduated. And
how long's that been?
5 years.
Are we about to drop this? Oh, okay.
Yeah, so I've been out of my undergraduate for 5 years now. And I think the thing for me is that once
what?
Yeah.
Wait, really?
Yeah. I'm
undergraduate? Or do you mean...
No, I always refer to it as undergraduate because technically that's where I got my baccalaureate. And then...
Yeah. All right.
But like coming out of there, I found myself like in this continuous period of realizing like, oh, okay, yeah. I mean, like I know I did good at school and, that was then. But I have to also like recognize moments where I am not very good at things. So I mean, like, not that's the lesson. The toughest thing that I learned this year was how to roll with the punches, and that's a reference to a playlist, a mixtape I made on Spotify.
A good playlist, though.
But like, what it meant to represent for me when I was making that mixtape was me saying, all right, so maybe things might not turn out your way, but that shouldn't be an excuse for you to stop what you're doing. And in fact, like, if you can, when you can, try to use the, I guess, inertia from that blow to do something else or to do something with it. So to put that into a more concrete context, I keep using the word context in this episode because we are not that we're connoisseurs of context, but then my biggest project for this past year was working on my first novel, on a book project, and this year I was able to come up with a draft that I was very happy with.
Also, can I just say that's really crazy that was also this year?
Yeah, that was also this year. I know.
I really remember that period of you finishing that up, and that does seem like so long ago.
It's weird that I can now look upon the rush of getting to the finish line as like a memory, and not as the way I am feeling right now, which is sort of funny. That's funny to me. But like, I remember the day that I felt like I was happy now with the draft that I had, and then I told my parents about it, and I started crying. I was like, whoa, it took me 28 years to get to this moment where I could say I'm done. And like, in spite of that, like, I haven't really been able to get the book anywhere out into the world. I mean, like, I've gotten it into some forms and places, but not in the way that I want it to be, which is the published book form. And there are various reasons for that. I won't really go into all of them here, but then the ways in which I tried to get the wheels of that turning I mean, like, they resulted in the likely scenario, which is that things didn't fall through. And when that happened, I found myself sort of faced with the question of, well, what do I do with it now? Like, is this a thing now that I'm just going to shelf for the rest of my life and no one's going to read it? And, slowly after each month, I had to learn the practice of telling myself, not really, you can just take this punch that you're getting, take this blow that you're getting, and then, like I was saying in a few episodes earlier, like, be the god of improv with it. Like, say yes and to it. Like, yes, I got hit. And I also used the feelings that I got to write a new story. And I mean, like, that sort of, I think
you wrote a lot this year.
I wrote a lot this year. No, I really feel like this year my writing practice improved so much.
I want to add something also, but go.
My writing practice improved so much that I really found moments where I was just devoting whole weeks to generating new stories. And it's weird. Like, I feel like it wasn't like that in the past. Before, I would kind of just wait until I felt like I had the whole thing in my head, then I would try to write the whole thing out. But then now it became more the process of enjoying the process of discovery, like writing down the initial idea I had in my head and then just following it through and just seeing like, oh, where could I take it? And then doing redrafts or revisions where I would say, okay, what's missing here? What's the thing I really want to say? What's the clearest image I can pull out of this scenario? And that I think was like the biggest improvement that came out of my writing practice. Was then I started learning how to take sort of the lulls, or take the quiet moments, or take the moments where I'd gotten some form of rejection or other, and then used it to focus myself on something else.
Right.
And like, even though I didn't get my book that much closer to publishing after I'd finished the draft, I did start revising it, and at the same time I got a little bit of it published as a short story, which is really exciting. And that was my first cool. I was so excited by that because that was my first literary magazine short story publication ever, which like I'd been working towards for literally years now. And that it happened this year, and the weirdest year. It was like, okay, I obviously have mixed feelings now about this year.
Truly the dumbest year, yeah.
Truly the dumbest year to have this feeling.
Yeah.
But that moment when I saw the email saying that they would publish the story was like really like I haven't let go of that feeling, of that memory of reading that email. So that was the toughest thing I learned this year, is how to roll the punches and get back up. Okay. So okay, wait, do you...
Oh, the thing I wanted to add, I think I can relate to the third question.
Okay, so
go.
The third question, and this is the question where it becomes painfully obvious that this questionnaire was not designed for end-of-year questionnaires.
Or for our age group.
Or for our age group or for podcasts. Number 3, something you learned from me not related to math. So this question was actually from, like, written by math teachers for, like, a school, and... I've lost the source, but we will include it in the show notes. But it was meant for somebody who was like...
He was a math teacher, wasn't he?
He was a math
like
teacher
his
giving
teacher,
to
like his what do you call this? His username was super cute, like teaches kids or something. Like that was his at teaches kids, like something like that.
Yeah, but yeah, I mean, like I decided to keep the math part anyway because I felt like that was
cute.
Or like I think a funny thing, like. Between us, I sometimes make it, I guess, an inside joke about. I make a lot of inside jokes about math
that we
sometimes.
Can't do math.
Or like I will do math.
Can't do math.
Something about math is funny to me.
Majors?
Something about math is funny to me because I also firmly believe that humanities majors should be good at math. And
I know me too, but we just aren't.
But it's also so funny to me that like I don't know, like sometimes. Just thinking about whether or not math is supposed to be hard or enjoyable or both is a really funny concept to me. And I think that's sort of, in terms of like how we're expressing the question on this podcast, math is really a stand-in now for anything that was hard but worthwhile to do.
Mm-hmm.
So what was something that you learned from me that was not related to math?
This got really okay.
I told you I wasn't gonna make it super heady, but I was gonna make it substantive.
I know, but you were gonna like add to it.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
No, okay. So what I wanted to say, because you were talking about like your writing process and stuff and how you've like really improved with it. It made me remember how also something that I was able to do this year, which I was really proud of. I also did some writing this year, and I was able to put them out there. And if you were listening to our last episode, it's in the show notes. My first thing that I put out this year was an article about my past life as a Jonas Brothers stan.
Yeah. On underdog.ph.
It's on underdog.ph. Shout out to our girls. And so that was really cool. I've had articles published before, but nothing reflective. Like I've written stuff like feature articles and stuff, but I'd never done anything that was like just like an essay. So that was really cool. And the second thing that I did was after 10 freaking years of reading fic, I finally published one of my own on AO3, and that was really exciting. And I say that I take like these steps from, or like the process from you, because like number one, you edited both of them, but number two, like it was really also that kind of thing where you were saying like like no, like it's more like I realized that I could take better notes from you in regard to like keeping busy during the moments of like lull, and trying to do something that it, like for the times where I didn't want to just learn some new song on the guitar, because just to contrast it a bit, like learning a song on the guitar that like is someone else's song is in the beginning, more often than not, just that like you're learning it. Like I'm not really one for rearranging stuff unless like my band helps me, but again, we haven't seen each other, so like that's not really happened. And so trying to do something creative and like from scratch, I didn't think I could do any of that this year until the moment I realized I could, like, when I was like, because I decided to pitch to Underdog after you did. And like, I realized I had something to offer after thinking about it with you and talking about those things with you. And the same goes for my fic-ish sort of, because that fic, if we link it you'll see, but I mentioned in the notes of that fic that fic came out of me disassociating really bad during a meeting. And but I had like the guts to like put it out there on AO3 because of you, also because like you had also, and that was around the same time that you also had like like randomly sent something that you didn't think would get anything, and then you got it published also. So I kind of was just like, well, if he can do that for like something a bit more of like a bigger global scale, I can self-publish on AO3. It's fine. So yeah, I basically long story short, I have learned to be a bit more confident in like writing stuff, I guess. Okay. Because as as I've seen, I said too many times, but because I've been able to see more of that with you. Not to say that like I didn't notice it before. Yeah. But again, because we are in the same country now, and we talk on like better hours. I guess getting to see it quasi firsthand is also helped a lot with that. So
right.
Yeah.
I would say my answer also has to do with confidence, but it's of a very different kind. Okay. So I think the thing that I learned from you that's not related to math is
I didn't mention math at all.
Yeah, is realizing that my perceptions of other people's perceptions of me are wrong at best. Yeah, wait. Like now, what do I mean by that? Okay, so I think. And this is the thing where I'm like sort of like afraid to admit I'm like entering vulnerable territory, but like
oh no,
but like
I'm holding your hand
like
from afar.
So I mean, like, this doesn't feel like a thing that I should really like be 100% worried about because I know everyone hates it anyway. But like I always like worry about my presence or myself on social media or the self that I'm projecting there.
Right.
Because that's especially now in this year, that's been the interim our main form of projecting ourselves to each other.
Yes.
Using technology and the internet. And I've come to realize that at least this age, I don't do it very well. And like it's always been this thing where I almost am unsure, like, am I not doing it well to a fault where I'm failing to like I don't know, do civic duty or social duty for that matter? Like, am I failing?
Like, you mean if you're not tweeting about something?
Yeah, am I failing to be a functioning member of society if I don't put myself out there, project myself out there, or interact with people who I, in ideal circumstances, should be interacting with the way people normally do on social media? And I've learned. This is another thing where I know this problem has been going beyond this year, but like even in the past, like I would sort of ask you about it. And you would help to. You're like the great anchor of my social media presence.
Thank you.
Because without you, like I would never think like, oh, okay, maybe every once in a while it's okay for me to say a joke that I feel really proud of, because I don't know. I feel it's like a very clever joke, and from time to time, like if I don't ask you about it, like I will go into like this sort of self-destructive pattern where I think like, why did I even like say that joke? Why did I even tweet that joke? So stupid. And then like I end up deleting the whole thing, which has happened like a few times. But which like you've been like frustrated by. It's like, why? Like there should be a notification for you.
I know.
Right?
I know. That's what I said, right? Like I literally was like, I wish. You know how sometimes when you're about to delete a tweet and it goes like, are you sure you want to delete this? I wish that for your account specifically, that notification goes to me.
Yeah.
So that I could be like, no. I could veto it and then be like, log him out now.
Right.
So.
But like, I think extending beyond that, it's also helped me to like sort of reassess like, well, okay, I don't have to pretend like, or I don't have to act or behave or think as if people are thinking about me all the time. Right. Like, that's sort of the larger implication of that, which, I mean, it sounds selfish when it's coming from me or self-centered when it's coming from me. But I also would like to believe that this is not as uncommon as I am thinking it is right now. Like, people probably worry about this a lot. Right? Yeah. And so I think that,
I agree.
that sort of helped me to hear it from somebody else that you're doing fine. The way you're doing right now is okay. You're doing great, Sweaty. Like, like people don't know what your drafts look like. People don't know what your unsent tweets look like. Which is fine. All they need to see is what you put out. And what you put out is fine. And I think it really helped to hear that. Not just in social media, but in the world.
Yeah, in the world. Yeah.
In life, really.
Yeah.
Okay.
Agree.
So, question 4? Mm-hmm. Okay, question 4. This one is more like a reflective, heady question. Something you learned about yourself. How did you develop as a human being? I don't know if this question's too redundant, but as I was saying earlier, I think this is a good question to bring in the bigger picture perspective and reflect this year against like all the other years.
Yeah, but also, I think in some ways I'm okay with admitting that I didn't develop that much this year.
Okay.
Because I'm in terms of, I learned how to like be more confident in posting my writing, but and also I learned how to, do these things on the guitar. But then at the same time, that's different from like personal like inside like, development, because this year was like fucking hard, and I don't know. Okay, I guess that like the most basic thing that I can say, and which I have seen on Twitter, people say like you should be able to or like parang it's okay to admit that this is the least you did this year, was like literally just to get through every single freaking day.
Yeah.
Because, and I think that I'm pretty sure that nobody really expects that anybody had like the biggest, personal development, or like, what do you call it? Like a retrospective development this year, because there was kind of, there was basically no way of doing that, because everybody just had to focus on rearranging life and getting through every single day, like living through it.
Yeah.
Without like wanting to totally K-word yourself. And yeah, so I think that's it. I think my answer for this is really that I didn't do much except just maybe I'd have to say maybe similar to what you said earlier, that like I just had to roll with the punches and like get through every single day, because especially at the beginning, like the first quarter of this pandemic was the toughest, and I do remember like crying almost every day and like hating every second of like my job at the time, and like being stuck at home and just all of that. But then now again, that seems like such a different time. From
like,
now.
You now have a new job.
And now I have a whole new job, and also like being at home isn't as difficult. I don't really feel I've never really been one to really feel cabin fever either, like kind of like you, but like I'm sure I had some form of it at the beginning and I didn't even really realize it, and that manifested in bad ways. So I think that's it for me.
I think that's a perfectly fine answer. I think that's okay. Like, I think, like, that's one thing I guess I was not thinking about when I was reading through this question, was like, a lot of people will probably say that they didn't. And honestly, that's fine. That's super okay. I think I have an answer that's related again to my writing practice, which is that coming from where I was 5 years ago in my writing practice, where I was not actively writing as much, where I was still technically kind of finding my voice and figuring out how I wanted to get into writing as a career. By this
Had you started the novel already?
No, not even. I started it 2016 as I was thinking
when
about
in
the possibility. No,
joke
was thinking about the
2016.
possibility of going into an MA in the UK. But no, like my answer I think this year was that this was sort of the year where that practice fell into a place as a career. Like if I think about it, like okay, I came back in 2018, and then 2019 I think I spent that year trying to figure out how to make it work. This was the first year where I've been able to fully, well, okay, not fully is a bit too generous to it, because I do live with my family, and I don't independently support myself, but like
same.
Like I still managed to get through the year without feeling as much pressure to get into a line of work that wasn't fully involved with the writing practice that I do. Even the part-time job I have now, even like the freelance work that I do now, is still very much related to writing. So I feel like the fact that I've been able to make that work and make those things fall into place to support my practice is something that helped, I guess, that I developed as a human being. I became more of a writer, so to speak. That's what I think my answer for that question is. Okay, last question.
Yay, proud of us.
And then again, yes, I am proud of us also. The last question is another question that makes it painfully obvious that this questionnaire was not written for a podcast end of year questionnaire episode. Question number 5. What do you plan to do after high school? Okay.
Wait.
Yeah, wait.
You want to say yours first because you're...
I think, because the reason I decided to keep this question is I had a very important contextual reason for keeping this question, which is that so this year marks the 10th year since I started college, which means it's also the 10th year since I finished high school. And I've always thought of 10 as a very solid number in terms of measuring distance in time. Because think about where you were 10 years ago. I know where I was 10 years ago. I was, I mean, like, okay, not this month, but like, or this day, but like 10 years ago, I remember the day that I walked into the auditorium of the college that I'd spend the next 5 years at. And I didn't know anyone in the room. I was too shy to talk to anyone, but that would be a day that I ostensibly changed my life. And if you ask that guy walking into that auditorium, well, where are you going to be 10 years from now? They'll never be able to answer what we're going through right now. Yeah. And so, like, it's sort of funny to imagine, like, we've always answered the question of, like, what do you plan to do 5 years or 3 years from now? What's your 3-year plan or your 5-year plan? And it's always, like, geared towards the future. But I never think about the possibility of asking that question geared towards the past. Like, like, if you try to recall what you were like in high school, what did you think your life was going to turn out to be like?
Not this. No, I think... Oh, I don't want to answer that because I'll get kind of sad. But I didn't think I'd still be in this country, if that makes sense. I remember really wanting in high school to move a lot, and I in some ways related to my dreams, you know, like my aspirations in my life, but in other ways not really. And not to say that I have any regrets, because I don't. I really, like, especially now in this year where you kind of realize that no matter where you are, this shit is gonna suck. So that really gives no, you know, like, there's no bias for that, I think. But yeah, I agree with you that, like, 10 years ago you were starting college, and 10 years ago I was in my 3rd year of high school. Yeah. So probably on this, not this date for real, because it's the day before Christmas Eve, but, like, you know, around this time I was probably finishing up, like, Christmas stuff with my section or whatever, and planning to spend Christmas with my family. And yeah, if you had told me that 10 years from now you'd be doing a podcast with, like, your college best friend, in the middle of a pandemic, 16-year-old me would have been like, the fuck you saying? Pandemic? Like the movie? No. Maybe. Well, who's to say? Wait, is Pandemic the one where it's like with Kevin Spacey and all the...
I think so.
Unfortunately, it should have been named Predator, the movie. Yeah, okay. Yeah. All right. I had to say it. Sorry, because when it came into my head. Anyway, so yeah, I totally think that in high school but then at the same time, you know, I think that's okay to, like, look back and be all like, yeah, whatever, this might as well have happened. Not the pandemic, but, you know, like where you are in your life. It's not, I don't necessarily feel like I have any regrets. Yeah. Because, you know, if I had done those things, and this is something that I don't. Okay, so I'm like a really firm believer in that everything happens for a reason, or like almost everything, you know, happens for a reason, if not everything. And so one of the reasons, or one of the ways that I, you know, am able to convince myself, for lack of a better word, to not have any regrets about things I planned in high school not working out, is that, you know, well, if I had been successful in moving away when I had wanted to when I was much younger, you know, would that, I don't know if I'd have ever met you. Right. And, you know, I'm at, like, this point where it's like I really cannot imagine what my life would have been like if I had not met you, you know. And and you know, that, like, even if you had asked me, like, in my first year of college, like, if you had the opportunity to move and you wouldn't be close to Mio, would that, I don't know, I think that would have affected my decision. Sure. I'm not to say, like, you know, I'm super biased about that kind of stuff, but then, like, you know, like, I would prefer.
Right.
Yes, this is getting gay, but like I would prefer a life where we are
Yeah,
in every step together.
because
Yeah.
so many of the circumstances that surrounded our meeting were very serendipitous. Like the fact that
Right.
we met not not when you were student mismo, but when you came to like an
No,
open
I was
day.
coming for like yeah.
Like that was sort of
A
like
campus day
it
or
was one of those
something.
things where it's like that's very lucky that happened, and the fact that I
Yes.
then met you again
Yeah.
during an org like sort of
For
recruitment thing.
for the bosun.
Yeah,
for
and
our
then-
school newspaper.
And then when you walked in, we both recognized each other
We both-
instantly. So it was like, that was
which is
really fortuitous.
crazy.
And
Yeah.
I think for
about
me,
that
like,
moment a lot. And then I ended up getting into the musical of that year, which you had
yeah,
co-wrote.
I had co-wrote.
And that was one of the ways that we also got close because you were at almost every rehearsal, and I played the character that you specifically wrote. Did I
Yeah.
not?
I think so. It's
Yeah.
all a blur now.
It is a blur. I don't want to talk about it.
Anyway, yeah, I think for me, so the thing is, like, I think thinking back 10 years ago, what I was planning to do with high school or after high school, like college was a definite part of that plan, but I guess I did not take into account like the realistic things about how it would sort of play into my life. Like I think when I was still in high school, I imagined that college is going to be the period where you spend long interminable hours at some kind of like library bureau, and then you've got
Yes.
candles and books like at the desk, and you're burning the midnight oil, as I would say.
What's
But then like somehow I'd still find time to like write my great breakout work that I would be like ready to put out into the world as soon as I graduated, right? Like so within the
Right.
5 years, like 5 years is so long, like I can totally do that. And
Yeah.
then like essentially nothing happened.
Yeah.
nothing
Yeah,
happened
yeah.
to me, like in terms of like I guess like trying to make like an impact with my literary career or with my writing career. Nothing really took off for me within those first 5 years after high school. It wasn't until the next
Yeah.
5 years that it was really like, oh, okay, now it's going to happen. But like those first 5 years, even though what I'd planned for myself or what I thought was going to happen to me didn't happen, I never looked back on it as if it were a disappointment. In fact, I always look back on it as being the happy surprise of my life. That I'm making college seem very idyllic and idealistic, and I know even when I was there, I met a lot of people who expressed that it was very much the opposite for them. But I will always look back on that time as being like I learned things about myself that I did not know I needed to learn at the time. And that's why obviously like now I don't have the same plans that I did have for myself after high school. But I don't want to think that I would have wanted anything to be different from
Same. Yeah.
having
I
finished
agree.
high school. That sort of
Yeah.
thing. So
Yeah.
that was what I planned to do after high school. All right. So we've run through the questionnaire. I think we've gotten a good idea. We've taken a good look at ourselves in 2020. And I think it is now time to run through the things we enjoyed the most in the year. It's the second and much shorter part of this episode. Our favorite things of the year.
Hells yeah. What did you put down, by the way?
so
what are your categories?
So yeah, I think we both did ours independently, and so we didn't really like agree to like specific categories. And I think there were certain things that we both agreed on subconsciously, and then other things that we just did differently altogether. So like I put together a list of book or literature related things that I loved, which is just one thing. Movies, which I watched so much of.
as you do.
Music, TV, and then things that do not fit into them, which is essentially just video games. And then things that happened to me.
Okay.
What did you write down? I mean, like, what were your categories?
My categories are songs, albums, some movies. I have one TV show, but to be fair, it's only because I only watched one new show this year.
Okay.
So I might not even mention this. And then miscellaneous stuff also. So, yeah, I think, as we go along, I'm okay with like thinking of stuff on the spot.
Okay. You wanna go ahead? Why don't you give it a go?
Okay. So my first category is like songs, as I mentioned. And so, I have 3 here, that I listed down, but I know I have more and I can't think of them right now. I'm literally looking through my Spotify, but for the top 3 that I listed, like top of mind were, and this is not in any particular order. None of my lists or like none of my sections are, but the first song I listed down was "Psycho" by Red Velvet. I'm obsessed. So good. Song of the year. UP Music Circle tweeted that this is the song of the year, and I 100% agree. They are not wrong. And then my second song is "Held Down" by Laura Marling, which is the song that I learned on D major 7 open tuning. Awesome song. And it made me really feel a lot of things. This is also one other thing that we kind of, you mentioned this in the first time that we tried to record this episode, but like Laura Marling is not somebody that I had particularly listened to a lot.
Yeah.
Before, but I knew who she was, but then like I had listened to Mumford more than I had listened to her.
Sure.
And this year, because she was, I guess, really present on social media and really and had that this great album that everyone was raving about, I kind of was like, oh, okay, I guess I should pay attention to her now. And I'm so glad I did. So yeah, so Held Down by Laura Marling. And then the third is Chocolate by Kiana Lede featuring Ari Lennox from an album which I will also mention later. That shout out to Jam Pasquale also really loved this album that this song is on, and he reviewed it on his music Instagram. If you guys want to see mini reviews of music, kind of like a Bookstagram but for albums, head on over to, is it period average period law? Yeah, on Instagram. That's Jam's. Shout out to Jam and that
named
Instagram.
after the brother of Jude Law, if I'm not mistaken.
That's actually true. His that's on average is one word.
Yeah.
Like one full name on average, first name, last name, law, comma.
But just to be clear, Jam styled it as an period average.
And period average. Just to, spice things up.
Of course.
Yeah, because, you know how Jam is. Very exciting guy.
Oh, Jam.
Jam.
Not like we're going to hear from him anytime soon. But that's neither here
not
nor
at
there.
all.
Neither here
not
nor
at
there.
all. No. All right, that's my first section. Do you wanna, or should I move
keep
on
going. Do
also?
your whole thing.
Oh, okay. Okay, so after songs, I have albums, and these are some of the big albums that I listened a lot to of this year. The first being, again, Laura Marling's Song for Our Daughter album, which is where Held Down is in, and which is, she got nominated for a Grammy for that this year, so whoop whoop. I don't know if this is her first Grammy nomination, and if it is, super well deserved, and I low-key hope she wins it, because the other people in the category are men. And so, next is, again, Kiana Lede's, this is her second album, I believe, Kiki, and this is the one that Jam had also reviewed. Super good album. She's super great. Just classic R&B. Good shit. Next is Chloe and Hailey's Ungodly Hour. I think this is their first full LP. And then I think they recently also just won like Best New Artist at some award ceremony or other. And Beyonce was the one who introduced the award to them. So that was pretty cool. But also they're signed under Beyonce's label. So anyway, but yeah, super cool, super cute. Sister duo. If you guys don't know who Chloe and Hailey is, you are missing out. 10 over 10 would recommend their NPR Tiny Desk concert, which they did just literally like last week. It's super good. Laura Marling also has one for this year, which came out a couple months ago. 10 over 10 would also recommend that. And my last album that I put down was Carly Rae Jepsen's.
Jepsen.
Carly Rae Jepsen.
Were you saying it in the Benedict Cumberbatch style?
No, I was saying it. Oh, is that what you were thinking of? Because I was thinking of, I sound like Frank Langella being Nixon.
When the penguins...
That's what it sounds. When the penguins do it, it's not illegal. I hate
when the
that.
Jepsen does it.
When the Jepsen... that's actually true. When Carly Rae Jepsen does it,
it's not illegal.
It is totally not illegal. I agree with that. But yeah, I put down her dedicated album, both sides. So side A, which came out last year, and side B, which came out of nowhere this year. Because she literally was like, hey guys, remember how much you love this album? Guess what? Here's more. And we all cried.
Much like how Taylor Swift said, hey, you guys remember how much you love Christmas?
Yeah. Would you ever want more of Christmas? That's what she said.
Look what we got here. Yeah, anyway.
The CRJs are Carly Rae Jepsen's both albums. Both of her dedicated albums I super loved this year. She was my top artist this year on Spotify. And for those of you wondering, yes, I'm fine. It's just been a long year, okay? So, I did listen to a lot of other albums, but these are all albums. Most of the things that I mentioned are things that came out this year, by the way. Like, I'm not doing that thing where you recommended that I could do this, but I decided not to, where like you just add stuff that you got into this year that didn't necessarily come out this year.
Okay.
I decided to not really do that because I wanted to try and see how much new things I got into this year. So yeah. Okay, so those are my albums. For film, significantly shorter list because I had also asked you about what movies we watched this year because I am confident that all the new movies that I watched this year I had seen with you.
Right.
And there were some movies that we didn't really watch, but like we watched via commentary, which counts, but I didn't put them on here. Because effectively that would mean that we had watched Tiger King and we didn't. And I never want to say, and I never want to say that we watched Tiger King. But we had watched the commentary on Tiger King and that was great. But yeah, so for films this year, I super love my number one, which again, I said that none of these things in the list are by any order necessary, but like this, I'd say that this is one of my, if not my number one movie of the year because I enjoyed it so much, is Palm Springs. Palm Springs. Yes. That was a really good movie. I really enjoyed when we watched that. Really that was a good one. Another recent watch that we did was Mank. We literally watched that like a week and a half ago, if not last week.
Okay, yeah.
Very good movie. I liked it. Emma, also,
I love that
movie that we super love because we both have some crushage in that movie.
We have some crush currency to spend.
Some crush currency. Oh, yeah. Me more so than you.
I would think so, yeah.
By accident.
Well, yeah. No, surprisingly.
I have two.
No, but remember, I also have two. For a surprising reason.
Oh, yes, that's right.
For reasons that will surprise you, I have two.
It was so surprising that I forgot about it because I was like, this can't be real.
Right. Anyway, proceed.
Anyway, so good movie. Lots of attractive people in it, but very good performances all around. Great. Music also by a crush. By the music,
that's
the woman who scored that movie.
That makes it 3.
That's true. That makes it 3 for you. The woman who scored that movie is a Waller-Bridge sister. Yeah. So shout out to her.
The Waller-Bridge sisters.
That was great. That was really good. They should sing it like that from now on. Yeah. Then they do it in like a uke. Yeah. Anyway. And then another good movie that I really liked this year that came out this year was A Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood. I really like that movie.
Yeah, that was a good movie.
It was very sweet.
Was it this year or was that not last year?
Oh shit! Did we only just?
I think we only just watched it this year, but I have a vague memory of it being an Oscar
coming out
for last year.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
No, don't.
Oh, in that case. Whoops, I just went against my own thing that I just said I didn't do. Oh well. Either way,
But
good
that's
movie.
fine.
I
It
liked
feels
it.
like
I liked it.
feels like-
I feel like it's kind of underrated. Yeah, a lot of
Yeah.
people. I know a lot of people who did not like it, but also shout out to David Sims because he liked it, and I appreciate that. Anyway, for TV shows, I didn't watch anything new this year. I rewatched a lot of stuff. I'm okay with mentioning that just for the sake of filling this up, but I rewatched Yuri on Ice, because the trailer for what I like, the Yuri on Ice prequel movie, which I like to call I, Victor, but it is not called I, Victor. It's called Ice Adolescence, which I don't know if that's better than I, Victor, but I guess we're calling it Ice Adolescence. That came out by surprise. That surprised the world also this year, just a couple of months ago, and I rewatched You're on Ice in one go because they're very short episodes, but also I'm in a lot of pain now, so there's that. I also rewatched Community, which was awesome. Super love Community, and it was also one of those things where like as I was watching Community, I was like, oh, this is totally why me and Nick are the way we are.
Yeah.
Like, Community came out when I was in late high school, early college, right? Like,
Yes.
that was the period. That
Yeah.
should have been it. Or, like, it was finishing around the time that I was already entering
Yeah.
college. So, all of us had watched it separately.
Yeah.
But by the time we became friends,
Yeah, us with our
We were-
mutual friend Nick.
and with our mutual friend Nick, when the three of us had become pals in college, like we all jived for some reason or other. And me rewatching this made me realize it was probably because we all watched Community and super loved it in the past.
Makes
so
sense. Makes sense.
yeah, I mean, one of the top reasons, obviously not the reason, but one of the top reasons. And then another show that I kind of liked, no bias, was Defending Jacob. Very good show. That was the most stressful show I watched this year.
What did you like about it again? Sorry, what was that you liked about
The
what was
performances of
Sorry,
every
of
J.K.
who?
Is in this show.
Was he the
J.K.
lead?
Simmons
Was
is
he
in
the
the
one defending
He was
Jacob?
he was. Well, actually, you could say he was trying
So
to
he's
defend
the hero.
Jacob.
So he's the titular character.
No,
who's oh,
he's-
what? Sorry.
No, he wasn't the one defending.
No, but
Jacob.
wait,
I
no,
mean,
but I'm
not
so
not the
confused. Who's the one
titular
defending-
defender of Jacob.
So who would you say
Jacob's mom, who was
the
played by
So the mom is a title
Downton
character.
She kind of
So she's like the one who gets
this
hired
is a
in court
difficult
to
question.
represent.
Oh no, not at all.
Oh.
Well, depends on who you ask. Sorry if I blew out the mic there, but anyway, so
Well,
Defending Jacob,
let's say
good show about
who's the
families
legal
and
representation. Just tell me who the legal representation of Jacob was, because I assume this is a
it
legal
was his
drama.
father.
And
It was a
his
legal
father?
drama.
His
Yeah,
father?
his
Who was
father.
father?
Basically,
Who
his
was his
father
daddy?
who was the district. I'm sorry. What did you say?
Sorry, the
Who was his-
DA, as in DA,
He was.
DDY?
Yeah, he was the district attorney of Boston, and he had to defend his own son.
And he was played
From-
by...
Some guy. I actually have no idea who played him. I'll Google it now.
I'll wait.
His name.
I can wait.
His name is. I don't know how to pronounce this. Chrys-Efans. Chrys-Efans.
Checks out. Okay.
His name is Chrys-Efans.
All right. Okay,
Yeah.
I don't think I know him. Anyway.
He was I've never seen him in anything before this. Pretty good actor. But J.K. Simmons, again,
What a guy. Classic.
was in it.
Spider-Man
What a guy.
3, here he comes.
True. Oh man, this was. Oh,
Spider-Man
if you
3.
love Spider-Man 3, you.
If you know Spider-Man 3, or as I like to call it in my head, Spider-Man Home Home Home.
Oh, I hope that's a
them.
Christmas movie.
There are
I hope
three of them.
that is gonna be a Christmas movie. Home, home, home.
Anyway.
So yeah, and my last section is miscellaneous stuff. So stuff that happened this year that were pretty good, that I'm okay with mentioning. I guess I might add to this later as you mention yours too, because I feel like, again, because nothing much happened this year, it's very, ticking off good stuff is very difficult, but then also like very minimal. So number one thing is I got a new job, as you mentioned earlier.
Yep.
Shout out to the homeroom. Very grateful, having a great time. Second is this podcast. very fun. It opened a lot of opportunities between us as friends, as we mentioned, because we're big on the friendship, and also gave us both reasons to get really good mics. So
that's true. We started this podcast thinking like we're not going to pay a single cent towards production costs.
Not at all. Like we were like we are not
like,
gonna.
Maybe we
we are both too poor for this, and now here we are.
We're gonna commit.
We committed to the bit. Yeah. And another interesting thing that I noted here, which I don't know why I wrote this down, but it just says Chrys-Efans getting an Instagram. Don't know what that means.
I'm sorry, I thought you didn't know
that was
who
really.
Chrys-Efans was.
I don't. So I don't know how this got on my stupid list.
So weird. It sounds like Chrys-Efans hacked into your computer or something. I know
that I
typed it out.
That's truly a fear.
I mean, which is weird. Like it doesn't. He doesn't seem like the kind of guy who would like accidentally or just do things on his Instagram by accident.
I know he doesn't. Whoever Chrys-Efans is, I really feel like he wouldn't be reckless like that.
Yeah, that seems like a foolish thing to do,
I
especially
know.
on the first week of our podcast. That seems.
That would have been crazy if like a weird thing happened the day that we were recording our first episode. Oh, I should have mentioned in songs also. Speaking of Chrys-Efans, or Chrys-Efans, however you pronounce his name, a really great band that I discovered this year is called Sammy Ray and the Friends.
Oh, Christ!
And I. What?
Go on. No, go on. I was just reacting. I was just interjecting.
Okay.
You said you found it out from him.
In a weird. Yeah, no, I think I did. I don't know how I found this band. Anyway, so Sammy Ray and the Friends, very good. I discovered them through a song that they released this year called Jackie Onassis, named after the titular Jackie Onassis. But it's not about Jackie Onassis. But it's a really good song. If you guys have never listened to the song, 10 over 10 would recommend. That is definitely one of my top songs of this year. So yeah. That's my lists for now.
Okay, I'm going to sort of speed round through mine. I feel like I don't have to elaborate too much. This is just like a recommends list, honestly. But I will like give context when
you wrecked room.
I did. Okay, books or literature related things. I feel like it seemed like too on the nose to actually list my favorite books this year. Partly because like I wanted to see which one stayed with me, and even though like there were some persistent titles like our persistent authors like Sally Rooney, Karen Russell, Zadie Smith. I felt like we devote so much of this time to talking about books anyway that I just wanted to like glance over literature just this once. And so the only thing that I put here that was related to literature that I discovered that felt like a discovery this year was the Twitter account of Kate Clancy. It's at Kate Clancy 1 on Twitter. And she basically she's a teacher of poetry for students in, I guess, grade school, high school in the UK. And occasionally she will post their poems that they make in class. And the poems they come out with are so good. So I feel like if you're ever looking to find poetry that feels very fresh and accessible, definitely go Kate Clancy 1. She's got them all for you. Next category I have is movies.
Good for her.
And I went in the complete opposite direction of you, which is I chose not to include almost anything
movies from this year
that were because for me my movie journey this year was like I'm gonna be home as for pretty much the whole year, so I'm going to try to fill in as many blank spots as I could. And some of these are blank spots, and others are movies that I've revisited after a long time of not seeing them and realizing that there was something in them that really resonated with me. And like overall, like I this year I think I hit 200 almost. I'm about to hit 200 movies on Letterboxd for this year. I'm gonna try to hit a clean 200, but I've spent at least 10 full, at least
like 50 days, right?
I remember doing the math. I think I've spent at least 2 real-time weeks watching movies this year. Which I mean that's just the year. So these are the movies that I saw or rediscovered this year. Margaret by Kenneth Lonergan.
Hells yeah.
Starring Anna Paquin, and then rewatched Babe by Chris Noonan.
What year is that again?
Margaret or
Margaret? Yeah. Not Babe.
No, Margaret was like 2000. I feel like somewhere between 2002 to 2004. I can't really recall which, but then it's one of those years post 9/11. Babe by Chris Noonan. I remember the morning after I saw it, or like the morning
You were so emotional.
I was so emotional. I texted you, and as I was texting you my summary of the ending, which everyone knows, I started crying. That is powerful stuff.
Yep.
This year I also took under my due diligence, the duty of acquainting myself with the filmography of Elaine May, whose work I'd never really heard of or gotten into before, and I was so glad that I did this year, because she's only made 4 movies ever. She should be making more. Her movies are so good. A New Leaf. I remember sharing clips of you those really funny. And then
that's quite an old movie, right?
Yeah, it's very old. And then well, not that very old, but like she's basically a contemporary of what's his name, of the guy who directed The Graduate. They're like best friends.
Oh yeah.
And
are they?
Yeah, and it's weird. Like they were a comedy duo for the longest time, and then they both became directors. And it's super. It's like he ends up becoming this phenomenal auteur, and she makes 4 movies, which get like progressively like poor reactions,
floppier.
Yeah. Like the
in terms of critics,
but
wise,
which is so funny because like even the last movie that she made, Ishtar, which was like nominated for a Razzie, isn't even really that bad. Like I would even say like it's not like a bad movie. And yet somehow that kind of pushed her to not do movies anymore, which is a real shame.
What year was that?
That was like 90. It was in the 80s or 90s.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it was with Dustin Hoffman and I think Robert Redford.
Wow.
Yeah. Another movie that I rediscovered this year that I realized there was a stretch where we were rewatching the Oceans movies, and I realized that my favorite one was Oceans 12.
Very good.
Which is like I think the dark horse answer. Nobody really normally picks Oceans 12 as their favorite, but I know. I realized it's my favorite.
And you really convinced me.
I did.
Of like its greatness.
Yeah.
And I'm with you on that now.
Yeah. 11 and
because my favorite is still 13.
You're a big 13 fan. I'm secret. I've like I could go to bat for 12. Other similar to Elaine May, another career or sort of career phase. I didn't do the whole thing, but like a career phase that I discovered recently was early Coen Brothers. I saw Blood Simple. I saw Hudsucker Proxy, and those were movies like, oh shit! If I had seen those movies earlier, I would have gotten on the Coen Brothers train like way sooner. Because like I've always known that they've been important filmmakers, but I never really they felt like homework, to be honest. Sometimes they felt like doing homework, and I don't know if it was because of an absence of the American context, because they seem like very quintessentially American filmmakers.
Americana.
Yeah, like you have to be like, it really taps into this like sort of interior sense of Americanness that is available to the people who champion it.
Did they also direct the first Fargo?
Yeah.
Fargo.
That was
they
them.
did, right?
That was them. So
yeah.
So that seemed a little like I mean like I like that movie, but it doesn't hit me as much as like Blood Simple, which I admire so much for its confidence, and then also Hudsucker Proxy, which I think that I think is for me one of their, in that early career stretch, their best film. It's almost like edited like a music piece. And then also Raising Arizona, which I super love, and it's got Holly Hunter in it, who's one of my favorite actresses and ladies.
Yes.
Yeah. Anyway, so next one is The Vast of Night by Andrew Patterson, and this is a movie that I think it's something of an indie sleeper. Not that many people saw it, I think, but it's on Amazon Prime if you have that, and it's a very cool sci-fi alien movie that I would argue draws more similarity from Before Sunrise and Sunset and Midnight than it does from Close Encounters of the Third Kind. That's like my one hot take for it. Um, which, let's face it, probably a lot of other people have said as well. And then my last movie that I discovered this year, which I was really excited to see I was so excited when I came out of it, was One Cut of the Dead by Shinichiro Ueda. And I don't want to say anything about it. I just want to say watch that movie with as little context as possible because you will be it will surprise you what it's actually about. So that's movies for me. Music, I've got 3.
What was the movie that you said you watched recently, Cold, and you really liked it, but I
was Sound of Metal.
Right.
Okay, that's another movie I didn't list here, but I quite like the movie. Music. I only listed 3 albums here because I am I'm
a creature of habit.
I'm a creature of habit and my taste is boring.
Yeah.
So I have
it's not, but like go on.
3 albums here. I'm forever a Hop Along stan. I'll never let Hop Along die. Like for 3 years running, I've let them be my top artists for 3 years in a row where I've listened to them 3 days straight. But this year, Frances Quinlan, their lead singer, released her first solo album, Likewise. So that took the top spot this year. I also, an artist who I hadn't listened to in a while, but her new album was so good that I just fell head over heels in love with it, was Waxahachie and her new album, Saint Cloud. And then I think one of my third entry here, which this seems like a good fit with the protracted nature of 2020 because they released each section of this quote-unquote album throughout the year was Dirty Projectors, their 5 EPs. Those were great. Lose Your Love, Windows Open. So all those
good stuff.
All those things are good. TV. These are all new things that came out this year. Tales from the Loop, which I think is better than Devs. It's a sci-fi anthology series about people who... it's a small community of scientists and inventors who are basically dealing in future tech. But it's like a small American town in the province. So it doesn't feel like cyberpunky or you know, that sort of thing. Queen's Gambit, which... I mean, I'm not somebody who's necessarily into sports anime, but I've heard that comparison a lot.
Yeah.
I just love the zaniness of it. I can point a myriad of characters who I would love to know more about, and I wish they would make more seasons just focusing on all the other characters.
Just for like the others.
Because I swear to God, it's so good. Another show that does a lot with side characters that you want to know more about, The Mandalorian season 2. Huge quality of improvement. I think even all the way up to the end, a lot of people are feeling divided about the ending of the finale, which I'm like, whatever. I enjoyed the season. I had a good month and 2 months that I was watching it. And then the last one, of course, Normal People, which came out this year. Do you remember Normal People?
Yeah, I do remember Normal People.
Oh boy.
Also, again, cannot believe that was just this year.
Yeah, that one felt like last year. That one I had to remember, like, oh yeah, we saw that this year.
Oh yeah, that's true.
Okay, any of the other things, which is video games, 2 games. I've already spoken a lot on this show about my love for Hades, so that is easily my game of the year. But 2 other games that I played a lot and stayed with me since I started playing them were Kentucky Route Zero, which is a magical realist narrative game, so that you don't really do much except to just talk to other people and sift through dialogue options, but a lot of them are told very poetically. It's a very well written game. And then another well written game that does do a lot of action that I finally played this year was God of War. Whoa. That's a game that I was saying to our friends on a group chat, I could word for word match the lyrics of Cat Stevens' father and son to this game, and it was another.
Yeah, that's right.
It was another
you
thing
wrote
that
a whole
almost made
essay on the chat.
It almost made me cry just thinking about it. But anyway.
Yeah.
And then my last category, things that happened to me. I've actually mentioned 2 of the 3 things that I wrote here. So first one was got published. Second one was wrote a version of my book that I was pretty happy with. And then the third one was I got to see you before the Fire Nation attacked.
That's true. Oh, I'm so sorry. Well, we've talked about it a lot. But
fine.
like, yeah, that's true. We did see each other before the Fire Nation attacked.
Yeah.
That's a good. Wait, and also proud of you for making that reference.
Yeah, even
Come
though
on now.
I've only seen
You've
a total
seen 2
of
episodes or something?
one episode.
One? You've only seen the first episode.
I have to get to
Guys,
the second
help
episode.
me freaking petition. I like how you literally started your bit by being like, I've watched a total of 2 weeks worth of movies, and then ended it with being like, I've seen 1 episode of Avatar. So maybe for
I'll get around to
2021
it,
we'll
promise.
see. Yeah.
That's a show.
Yeah.
That's a show that I'll maybe get into
Truly.
when we're all senior citizens.
Oh my god, if we're like 60 and then you're like, hey guys, episode 2, crazy shit. And we're like, yeah, all right. I mean, yeah, I'd still cry about episode 2.
Oh, that's
Anyway.
the episode that makes you cry. I haven't even reached it yet.
No, all the episodes make me cry.
Oh, okay.
So, for different reasons.
All right. Well,
Yeah.
I guess that being said, this is 2020 in the can.
Jeez.
Okay, I think
When is this coming out?
what this
After
is,
Christmas?
this is coming out like 3 days from now, so this Saturday.
Oh,
We're recording it.
Yeah. Yeah.
We're recording
Kind
this
of
on
late,
Wednesday.
yeah.
Whoops.
Yeah.
But like, yeah, we're recording this as close as we can to the end of the year, just in case anything else happened in our lives. And I mean, life has remained the way it is. I've gotten to see some. I don't know about you, but I've gotten to see some people since we last tried to record this episode that made me feel like, oh, okay, you know,
that's true.
my
You
my
did.
social energy canister has been filled or used, or I don't know which is the right way anymore to refer to it, but
Yeah.
in some way I interacted with my social canister quota this week, and I'm looking forward to our episodes in the next year. We're going to be wrapping up Zadie Smith, and
Oh boy.
we're not gonna say just yet what we're gonna do after that. But I will say, if it's okay with you, Mandy,
ahead.
that we are going to go through a few changes in our lives. We're going through changes. In the podcast.
I haven't seen the season 3
Me
yet.
neither, me neither.
I mean 4, whatever they're
But
on.
yeah.
Anyway, go on.
But after Zadie Smith wraps up on our show, we will be doing something slightly different in the new year, and you will find out what that is as we, I guess, wrap up the end of the
True.
Zadie Smith miniseries. But we're looking forward to that, and we will be coming back with episodes towards the end of January. The final date to be announced on our social media. You can always follow us there
Follow
at the Rec
us.
Room Pod, Rec spelled REQ. Amanda, is there anything you want to say to our listeners before we leave everyone in 2020?
Thanks for listening so far. To everybody who's been listening since the beginning, thanks so much. It's been fun. We can't wait to do more for you guys and with each other. So yeah, stick around. We hope you stick around. Follow us, like Mia said, follow us on social media. If you follow us on the Rec Room Pod, you will see our own social medias on there. So just go ahead and click that. I'm not going to say what my social media is because the names are very long and pretentious. Whereas Mio everywhere is just Mio Stark. So yeah, go follow us.
like, if
Talk to us, by the way.
If you find me on social media, inevitably I will have tagged or be tagged in something by Mandy. So you could just
That's true. So you could also just
reach
follow.
her through me.
Yeah, if you want to detective your way through
Yeah.
this. So yeah, thanks again, everyone, and happy holidays.
Happy
whatever you
holidays.
celebrate.
And as always,
Mm-hmm.
this is a podcast called The Rec Room with Mandy and Mio, where we ask the question, where does the writer's work become required reading?
That was great.
In
That
each
was so
episode,
good.
we take popular authors of the day and review each entry in their bibliographies to see just how close these writers get to the sweet spot between mainstream breakout success and traditional literary sensibility.
Sensibilities.
My name is
Pew,
Mia.
pew, pew, pew. I'm Mandy.
And as always, heaven sent you to me. I'm just hoping I don't repeat history.
Oh.
Boy, I'm trying to meet your mama on a Sunday. Then make a lot of love on a Monday.
Wait
Never
a
need
minute.
no one else, babe. Cause I'll be switching them positions for you.
I hate this so much. Have you ever heard that song?
No, I have never.
Oh my god.
Which is horrible because this is also what happened when
we asked you
when Thank You Next came out. You asked me to sing it, and I told you what I thought it sounded like.
Rhythmically, you were kind of there.
Oh, is this what that song actually sounds like? Switching the positions for you.
Yeah, actually. Yeah. Listen to it after this. You'll see.
Sige. We'll post it on the social media, my reaction to the song.
Yeah, do that.
Okay, bye everyone.
Okay, bye. Thank you.
See ya.
Ariana Grande? Question mark. I should have included her in my stuff. Her album is also good. Anyway, goodbye everyone.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to The Rec Room. This episode was edited by me. Our artwork is by Mandy. Our theme song is 64 Sundays by Twin Musicom, which is licensed under Creative Commons Attribution License. Check out more of their music at www.twinmusicom.org. For more updates on The Rec Room, follow us on Instagram and Twitter at The Rec Room Pod. Rec spelled R-E-Q.